There's a debate of, should cursive handwriting be a priority in the same space where we're talking ChatGPT? And I do think that there's value for students understanding how to write in cursive, but we can't ignore the fact that ChatGPT is real. It can lead to shortcuts if we're lazy, but it can also lead to deeper levels of cognition if we're willing to lean in and think about how we question and teach and engage with students in a very, very different manner. I don't know how we in good faith ignore this.
You're listening to the smartsocial.com podcast. I'm your host, Josh Ochs. This is our District Talk segment where we interview district leaders to learn how they're keeping students safe on social media so those students can someday shine online. Now, let's get back to the interview.
Hi, my name is Christine Arostigue-Manson, Director of Secondary for Lynwood Unified School District. We're an urban district located in LA County. We're composed of 18 schools and we have about 12,000 students.
Hello, my name's Cain. I'm the superintendent of the Rockwood School District. We are a suburban district just outside of St. Louis, Missouri. We have right around 20,000 students and right around 33 sites.
Hello, I'm Dr. Ramont M. I'm superintendent of Saginaw Public Schools. We have approximately 5,000 students over 17 schools.
With regards to AI tools like ChatGPT, how are you approaching those new tools, especially ChatGPT?
I think you have one of two options that you can engage in. One is to bury your head in the sand, or one is to embrace what I believe is in so many ways going to be an unstoppable force. We are not burying our head in the sand. We're trying to figure this out. And I don't believe anyone has a comprehensive answer when it comes to ChatGPT. It's evolving at a rate that is absolutely fascinating, right? The version today is the worst version that the world will ever see moving forward. This rate of change, we haven't seen anything quite like this. And we're going to have to embrace it. What I do find interesting is that we live in a world where we're trying to teach students, and there's a debate of, should cursive handwriting be a priority in the same space where we're talking ChatGPT? And I do think that there's value for students understanding how to write in cursive, but we can't ignore the fact that ChatGPT is real. It can lead to shortcuts if we're lazy, but it can also lead to deeper levels of cognition if we're willing to lean in and think about how we question and teach and engage with students in a very, very different manner. I don't know how we in good faith ignore this. But I do think whether it's citing sources, utilizing different aspects of this to amplify one's research, we're going to have to figure out a means to actually provide the appropriate citation for that, because this notion of your own work, right, your own intellectual property looks very different. And so we have to learn how to use this in tandem with what we are currently doing in terms of those processes. I don't think ignoring this is appropriate. But I also don't want students set up for failure at the collegiate level because they've leaned on this so intently that because of sloppy behavior, they're not providing the proper citation. Because at the end of the day, it's going to lead to some absolutely disastrous impact for students if they don't learn how to use this effectively. It's like any other tool. The most effective use is when we're smart and very thoughtful of how we approach this and use this.
Last year, we brought awareness to our teachers and administrators in regards to what ChatGPT is able to do. And so some of the things that we used it for was to help us support with grant writing. I used it for some of my administrators' evaluations, so to get creative with that. We used it for mapping field trips for our students. So we tried to show our teachers and staff, like, how could you use this in a positive way? Now we're trying to do that with our students. So this tool's available. We're not going to be able to monitor and shut down everything. So if you're going to use ChatGPT, let's use it to use as a base form, but then reformat it in your own creative words and supplement with that. So using it as a skeleton and then building upon that.
We have a huge training session for our entire instructional and support staff scheduled for this fall. It's not going anywhere. And so what we have to do is give our instructional staff the skills necessary to be able to use that as a supplemental instructional tool. That's number one. That's our approach to it. It's here. Let's see how we can utilize this to help our students grow cognitively, academically, socially, whatever. And so we'll begin training our staff this fall in that regard.
Are there any positive use cases that you've heard of from students or especially teachers around how they might be using a tool like ChatGPT?
So we just had high school graduations not too long ago and heard several references by our principals as relates to ChatGPT and a couple student speakers as relates to ChatGPT literally on the graduation stage. And I find it fascinating in a very broad, very public setting like that. There's a wrestling that occurs, right? I could have done this, but I'm doing this. Or I use this as a means to further amplify the message that I'm trying to send and share. It really highlights the fact that it's here. It's not about what's impending or what's coming. It's already here. And so I think that there's real value in that. And I think we're going to have to, in some ways, demonstrate that we're wrestling with this. There's going to be some back and forth. I can almost promise you there are going to be missteps across the planet when it comes to this, but we'll ultimately figure it out. I just personally, I will say it's absolutely the stuff of science fiction and is very different, right? It feels different for that to be living and breathing today. It will be fascinating in 20 years to look back and see how people judge what ultimately occurred at this particular point in time, but it's here. And so we have to be ready to roll.
I don't think our students are fully using it here in Lynwood. So I haven't really heard anything quite out of the ordinary yet for ChatGPT, but our students are becoming more aware of it. When we go into classrooms and ask them about it, they're like, oh, that's the program that writes your papers for you. So that's kind of their comment right now. So they're not quite yet as heavily used as probably our college students would be. Our teachers and administrators have used it to write lesson plans. Our principals are using it to do staff development. One of our middle school teachers asked for a professional development for middle school teachers for more student engagement, and they was able to shoot out a PowerPoint in less than 2 minutes for him, and he used it. He said it was great, it was engaging, and our second middle school administrator used that presentation as well, and she loved it, and her staff loved it.
And lastly, with regards to ChatGPT, are you changing any of the techniques for grading students and the types of assignments being used in the classroom?
Absolutely having some investigative effort in those different areas that you just asked about. Not only at the high school level, this is going to have impact at the middle and the elementary grade spans as well. And so we need to get in the space, not only look at what others are doing or have done, but we have to have some honest dialogue amongst ourselves as educators in terms of our thoughts as it relates to this and how it can impact whatever content area, project, whatever space we're specifically discussing at any one point in time. I will go back to what I said earlier. I think ignoring this, that teachers aren't using this, parents aren't using this, community isn't using this, and that students aren't using this is a significant misstep. And it's one that we are going to engage in. We're going to have to lean into the discomfort that this provides if we're really going to provide some meaningful answers.
Well, we have done a complete overhaul with our grading here in Lynwood altogether to make sure that we're being more equitable in our grading practices. And so we're not so much looking at quality, but quantity. And so when we're looking at our students' essays, we're looking at the multiple perspectives that they use. What is their point of view? How do they advocate for their main point? So we're looking at grading completely different here in Lynwood. I don't think that it's going to be really affected by the answers that kids are pulling from ChatGPT. We're looking at more collaborative work, projects. So not so much write my essay for me.
My hope, though, is that following the training, there'll be some deep discussions at the building level with teaching staff and administrators about how to utilize that, and if so, how that impacts our grading structure and ultimately policy that we may recommend to the board.
Thanks for listening to our smartsocial.com podcast. I'm your host, Josh Ochs. This was our District Talk segment where we interview school district leaders to learn how they're keeping students safe on social media so those students can someday launch into their future by shining online. This episode was brought to you by our smartsocial.com VIP program. It's called the Very Informed Parent Program, which helps you engage your students with teen-led video lessons. Stay one step ahead with our premium parent newsletter and discover hidden features on trending apps on teens' phones and our 54 plus live parent and student friendly events every single year. You can click on the link below to chat with one of our team members if you want a free pass to our VIP program to support your community with our smartsocial.com resources. And if you're a district leader who has a success story, we would love to feature you on a future episode, you can click the links below to reach out. Thanks so much for listening, and we look forward to seeing you on the next episode. Have a great day.